As Women Abuse Prevention Month comes to an end, as well as the Shine a Light campaign, I'm with Jillian Reed to wrap up the month. Welcome, Jillian.
Thanks for having me.
Right. So let's start talking about sexual violence. Now, that's a pretty broad category. Maybe you can explain what it is, because it might not be exactly what people think.
Right. So sexual violence is any violence, whether that be physical or not, that has to do with sexuality, targeting sexuality. And so that can be everything from what people would consider rape to things that are more of like a hate crime. So a trans person who is being harassed because of their gender or their sexuality, that sort of thing. All of this falls under sexual violence. So it can really be a wide variety of things. Sexual harassment in the workplace, online harassment as well, can fall under sexual violence.
Right. And we've through public awareness campaigns, we know the pillars of physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, but they really can all come together and fall into the same category in a way.
Yes, they often do kind of intersect. There's also financial abuse, which is can be very significant pillar or challenge for people to overcome as well.
Absolutely. All right, now what's going on? Are you okay? Let's talk about that and bystanders.
So I think that one of the biggest things to take away for me when we're talking about sexual or domestic violence is that a lot of times people feel like what's happening, it's not happening to them, it's not their issue. It is happening in our community, it's happening to people that we know. And a lot of times we see things or we hear things and we think, oh, this seems kind of, the word I like to use is sketchy, like this, something just doesn't feel right here, but we don't stand up. So that's kind of a bit of the bystander effect, which can be two reasons why people don't stand up. Number one is that everyone else is seeing this too, and they're not saying anything. So therefore it's not a problem. They know something that I don't know. The other reason that they might not say something is because I don't have to say something because somebody else will. There's all these other people here. So they might witness, let's say their neighbor is screaming in the street. And they're like, oh, everybody else is hearing them scream. I don't need to be the one to call and report this because someone else will do it. And we know that a lot of the times people don't end up saying anything, and that can actually allow something violent to happen, someone to be hurt. And it is our responsibility to stand up. And they do studies about a room of maybe 10 people, and they put a violent situation in front of them or a harassment type situation, and they ask them after because nobody stood up and said, hey, this is wrong. Most of the time, you get 8 to 9 of the people in that room thought that what was happening was wrong, but didn't say anything because no one else was saying it. So most of the other people that are witnessing these things, or most of the people in our community, are seeing or hearing about violence and think, this is wrong, we should do something about it, but they're nervous to actually stand up. So we definitely think it's important that if you're witnessing violence, whether that be sexual violence, domestic violence, that you do say something. And that can look different in different situations. So if you're hearing something happening at your neighbor's house, there's a lot of screaming, maybe you're hearing some crashing, maybe you don't want to walk over and bang on the door. Maybe that's not the safest thing to do in that situation. Maybe in that situation you do need to call the police. Maybe the situation would be you're at work and your boss makes an inappropriate comment to your coworker. Your legs look great in that skirt. Okay, this doesn't seem like a really high risk situation. However, that person probably does feel traumatized. So what you can do in that situation maybe isn't to confront the boss. It could be just to go up to your coworker and say, hey, are you okay? I saw this happen and I'm here for you if you need some support. So there's lots of different ways that as a bystander, someone in the community, whether that be at home, in the workplace, wherever it be, like that we can stand up and help each other out.
Right. And I just want to touch on that last point where you say something might look harmless, but in many ways it's a license for other bad behavior.
Exactly. So if you think of as an example, street harassment. You're walking down the street and someone's harassed on the street and 40 people witness that and say nothing. That tells the perpetrator of that what just happened is okay because 40 people saw it and said nothing at all. So it definitely does fall as a responsibility as a bystander to stand up to help let them know that their behavior is not okay and we're not going to stand for it in our community.
Well, Jill, this conversation can continue. I know that if people have any questions, they're free to reach out to Sexual Assault Support Services or one of the other agencies that are involved with the Shine the Light campaign.
Yes, that's Maison Baldwin House, Maison Interlude House, Naomi's Place, and Victim Services all also will have information and support available.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank you again for joining me to talk about this topic that doesn't get talked about enough.
Thank you.